So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me, what city are you in right now? What time is it where you're settling in? I want to picture the exact setting as you listen to this. Now, dim your lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft, steady hum in the background. Feel the weight of the day lifting off your shoulders. Tonight, we're embarking on a journey of gentle histories and soothing stories. You're safe, you're welcome. Breathe deeply and let your eyelids grow heavy as the world outside softens to a... With every... let tension melt away. With every... draw in calm. If you scroll down to leave a comment, let me know how you're feeling, where you are, what time it is, and any little sounds filling your room. It helps me imagine this experience with you. Now settle in, make yourself comfortable, and let's ease into tonight's story together. As twilight settles over the quiet English market town, the soft glow of lanterns begins to flicker along the cobbled streets. The air carries a faint scent of fresh bread, mingled with the earthy aroma of damp stone. Near the center of the town square, a small crowd is gathering around the wooden platform where the town crier stands, his bell in hand and voice ready to carry important news. Dressed in a bright red tunic embroidered with golden threads, the crier's face is weathered but kind, a trusted figure whose announcements shape the rhythms of daily life. Around him, curious townsfolk, farmers, merchants, and children in simple homespun clothes lean in with quiet anticipation. The chatter fades as the crier raises his hand and begins to call out the upcoming court session. This moment marks the delicate balance of justice in early modern England, where punishments are designed not to brutalize, but to maintain peace and order within the community. As the evening light softens, the scene evokes a gentle curiosity. What peculiar customs and traditions lie ahead in this tale of justice? Inside a modest courtroom illuminated by shafts of afternoon sunlight, filtering through tall, narrow windows, the magistrate presides over the day's proceedings. His black robes, edged with simple white trim, signal authority, but also a measured fairness. Justice in early modern England was less about harsh retribution and more about maintaining social harmony. Punishments aim to reform the offender and uphold public order, often with an eye toward reintegrating individuals into the community, rather than severe physical harm. As the magistrate speaks calmly to the gathered townsfolk and the accused, the atmosphere is solemn, yet tempered with a quiet sense of responsibility. Nearby, a scribe sits attentively, carefully recording every verdict and sentence in neat script. The system is designed to be a visible reminder of communal values, justice that is firm but gentle, serving both as deterrent and lesson. The story we will unfold reveals the peculiar punishments of the time, those odd but surprisingly humane traditions that shaped daily life in early England. The courtroom hushes as the doors creak open, and a nervous young man is ushered forward, accused of stealing a loaf of bread from the baker's stall. In early modern England, petty theft was widespread. Hunger bred desperation, and small infractions were often born of necessity. Yet the community viewed these offences through a lens of moral instruction rather than sheer cruelty. As the magistrate listens to the shopkeeper's gentle appeal, her embroidered apron stained by flour, the crowd murmurs softly. Some recall times they themselves nipped an extra apple. Others sympathise with the thief's hollow stomach. The trial unfolds without rancour. Neighbours exchange knowing glances, children tug at coats, and a few elderly townsfolk nod, recalling their own youthful scrapes. After hearing the plea, the magistrate decides on a mild sentence: a day in the stocks with a platter of bread and water delivered by the baker, intended to both shame and feed. The lesson is clear. In this town, justice is a communal story, teaching right from wrong through gentle ceremony rather than bloodshed. The scene closes on the thief stepping into the stock frame, head bowed but eyes curious, as townsfolk offer hushed words of sympathy, setting the tone for our exploration of peculiar yet humane punishments. As the sun shifts lower, the townsfolk begin to drift toward the square, where the wooden pillory and stocks stand ready. Far from instruments of torment, these devices were intended to apply a soft touch of public shame, enough to encourage better behavior without causing lasting harm. Here, the bailiff carefully inspects the pillory's hinge, ensuring it opens smoothly and closes with a solid. Nearby, a modest pile of straw cushions awaits under the offender's knees, and the baker's apprentice sets down a small loaf of bread and a flagon of water on a nearby stool. The anticipatory murmurs of the crowd calm into respectful silence as the magistrate steps forward to explain the intent. For a first offence of petty theft, you shall wear this device for the space of one sunrise and sunset, to reflect on your folly and return home humbled. The tone is neither cruel nor celebratory, rather a communal lesson, a moment for the offender to face their mistake before neighbours who may yet welcome them back with compassion. As the bailiff gently guides the accused's head and hands into the pillory, you sense a solemn ritual unfolding, an act of communal correction imbued with dignity, a reminder that justice in early modern England walked hand in hand with mercy. With the gentle murmur of the crowd still lingering in the dusk-lit square, our gaze drifts to the three humble instruments of correction: the pillory, the stocks, and the ducking stool. Each device embodies the principle of communal learning, public, memorable, yet crafted to avoid lasting injury. The pillory stands as a simple wooden frame with hinged boards that secure the head and hands, its smooth edges worn by countless seasons of use. Nearby, the stocks rest on stout beams, the offender's ankles cradled in carved crescents, offering only a mild, immobilizing discomfort. At the edge of a shallow wooden trough sits the ducking stool, a seat fixed to a lever arm, poised to dip the occupant gently into cool water. As lanterns glow on each device, the bailiff's softly voice explains their purposes. The pillory, to inspire humility through visible restraint. The stocks, to encourage reflection in stillness. And the ducking stool, originally meant for scolding women, to serve as a brief corrective dunk rather than a true ordeal. The scene evokes the town's collective intent to employ ritualized reversal of dignity as a teaching tool, reminding all who watch that social harmony depends on shared respect and gentle correction. In these simple implements, the heart of early modern justice shines through, where punishment and mercy form a single, quiet ceremony. As first light filters through mist, drifting over the market square, townsfolk meander toward the pillory's platform for the morning's gentle ceremony. The offender, a local weaver caught shortchanging a customer, stands bravely in plain woolen attire. Today's ritual is meant less as brutal spectacle and more as a communal lesson. The town gathers not to jeer, but to witness a ritual of accountability. The bailiff steps forward, lifting the wooden board and guiding the weaver's head and hands into place. A soft hush falls. Only the creak of hinges and the distant bleat of a goat punctuate the dawn calm. Nearby, the baker places a small wicker basket of rolls at the offender's feet, a gesture of both sustenance and solidarity. As the magistrate's voice rises in a measured announcement, he reminds everyone that this is a moment to reflect on honesty and trust, pillars of community life. Sunbeams catch the dewdrops on cobbles, lending the scene a serene glow. No rotten fruit is hurled, only the gentle rustle of cloaks and the occasional murmur of sympathy. In this opening moment of Chapter 2, the pillory emerges not as an instrument of cruelty, but as a symbol of shared values and restorative justice, setting the tone for our deeper look at how these devices shaped social bonds. By the glow of the high sun, the stocks sit beneath a tapestry of fluttering pennants awaiting today's reluctant occupant. In early modern England, The stocks offered a moment of enforced stillness, ankles secured in carved wooden grooves, inviting introspection rather than agony. Our subject is a timid schoolmaster who miscalculated his fees, inadvertently overcharging a parish family. As the bailiff gently guides his shuffling feet into place, the community gathers in a loose semicircle. The master's plain woolen hose peeks through the stock's smooth curves, his cheeks flush with mild embarrassment, not pain. Nearby, curious children perch on low walls, whispering questions. Their mothers bring a small satchel of porridge to keep him nourished. A local apothecary rests a cool cloth on his brow to ward off heat. The magistrate's voice, carried on a breeze scented by nearby lavender stalls, reminds onlookers that the stocks are not torture, but a pause, a public mirror reflecting one's missteps. As minutes pass, the schoolmaster straightens his posture, scanning familiar faces, some sympathetic, others gently teasing. Above, a church bell tolls the hour, framing the scene in measured cadence. In this tableau of communal care, the stocks reveal themselves as a ritual of pause and renewal, a crafted moment for offender and observer alike to realign with shared values before mercy and reintegration follow. As midday heat radiates off the cobbles, attention shifts to a shallow wooden trough beside the pillory and stocks. Perched on its lever arm is the ducking stool, a simple bench with iron band supports, designed to give a brief corrective dunk rather than a grueling ordeal. Today's occupant is a widowed laundress accused of public scolding, her neighbours with sharp words. In early modern England, the ducking stool served as a communal reminder that words carry weight, yet its use was measured, never intended to harm. The bailiff guides her gently to the seat, and two assistants lower the lever arm, submerging her knees in cool water with a soft splash. The townsfolk, washerwomen, market vendors, even children holding posies of lavender, stand around in respectful silence. A nearby apothecary sprinkles calming herbs into the trough, rosemary for clarity, mint for cheer. As the woman emerges, water dripping from her skirts, she receives a small cloth and a warm cup of ale from a sympathetic neighbour. The magistrate's voice floats over the scene. Let this dip remind us that harsh words, like cold water, can sting, but forgiveness and refreshment follow. In this ritual of measured immersion, the ducking stool reveals itself as a moment of cleansing rather than punishment, reflecting a justice system rooted in both accountability and compassion. As afternoon light softens over the village green, the magistrate calls a brief recess in the public rituals, so that neighbours may offer quiet guidance to those in the stocks and pillory. Here, we witness the subtle interplay of justice and compassion. A local vintner approaches the weaver, now released from the pillory, and places a small skein of dyed wool at her feet, an unspoken promise of work and support upon her return. Meanwhile, the schoolmaster steps free of the stocks, and a mother of two guides him aside to share a simple remedy for fair pricing. A mother's recipe for measuring grains with marked wooden spoons. The former laundress, her skirts still damp from the ducking stool, smiles gratefully as a miller offers a cup of warm ale and a piece of freshly baked bread. These moments, unchoreographed yet deeply woven into the town's fabric, show that early modern punishments were only half the story. The other half was the community's silent vow to help the repentant rebuild. No harsh words are exchanged, only whispering, whispered advice, gentle gifts, and nods of reassurance. As the bell over the chapel porch rings, signalling time's passage, the crowd disperses with a renewed sense of unity, leaving behind devices that stand in quiet readiness for tomorrow's lessons. As late afternoon light softens, the townsfolk begin to disperse, leaving the pillory, stocks, and ducking stool quietly empty in the square. Our three former offenders reconvene by a low stone wall, each bearing the gentle marks of their sentences. the weaver's wrists still faintly reddened from the pillory, the schoolmaster's hose slightly scuffed from the stocks, the laundress's skirt damp at the hem. Yet there is no stigma in their faces. Instead, a shared sense of understanding and relief. The magistrate, standing at the edge of the square, offers a final reminder of the community's bond. Punishment ends not in ostracism, but in welcome. The weaver cradles her skein of donated wool as the vintner claps her shoulder, promising work in his shop. The schoolmaster carefully measures a small pouch of grain with the mother's wooden spoons, smiling at the practical guidance. The laundress accepts the miller's loaf of bread and cup of ale, her cheeks warmed by gratitude rather than shame. Nearby, children scatter wildflower petals at their feet, a spontaneous gesture of goodwill. As each returns to their daily tasks, spinning, teaching children, washing linens, the square stands as silent witness to a justice that balances accountability with compassion. In this closing tableau of Chapter 2, we see the true purpose of these peculiar punishments, not to break the spirit, but to strengthen the social fabric through rites of correction followed by acts of kindness, weaving each individual back into the tapestry of village life. Morning light filters through tall, mullioned windows of the town's guild hall, where the community's financial punishments are recorded with sober precision. Rather than wooden frames or dunking seats, early modern England often relied on the gentle sting of a fine or the temporary confiscation of goods to correct minor misdeeds. Today's vignette centers on an apprentice baker who mixed inferior flour into loaves, shortchanging customers. Seated at a heavy oaken table, the town treasurer arranges parchment ledgers and quills. The guild's sergeant-at-arms stands nearby, holding a small basket of confiscated grain sacks. The magistrate, robed in muted grey, carefully adjusts his spectacles and announces the penalty, a modest silver fine, enough to remind, but not ruin, and forfeit of the substandard sacks to be distributed to the poor. Apprentices and journeymen lean in, their curiosity gentle rather than mocking. They understand that monetary correction preserves both honour and household stability. As the treasurer inscribes the fine in precise copperplate script, the apprentice kneels, head bowed, accepting the sentence with a respectful nod. A fellow baker slips him a conciliatory loaf, and a city alderman murmurs words of caution about maintaining quality. In this quiet ledger room, punishment and charity share the same page. A fine paid becomes alms for the needy, weaving accountability into the town's social welfare. The scene closes on the apprentice rising, pockets lighter but conscience clearer, as the magistrate gazes toward the window, where distant market bells beckon him back to daily life. At the heart of the market square stands the pillory, not as bare wood, but adorned with hand-painted symbols conveying the town's values. Early modern towns often decorated their punishment devices with coats of arms, moral maxims, and cheerful floral motifs, reminders that correction served community well-being. Today, the pillory's crossbeam bears a softly gilded sunflower, symbolizing both endurance and renewal. The side panels display the town crest and the Latin motto, Mite Judicium, Robur Concordiae, gentle judgment, strength in unity. Our subject is a travelling peddler caught selling subtly adulterated spices, an offence that could sour both trust and stew. As he stands before the painted panels, the bailiff slowly spins the sunflower motif toward him, saying, thoughtful, "May this bloom guide you back to honest trade." The artistry transforms the pillory from mere instrument into a public lesson. Even in correction, beauty and hope flourish. Nearby, an apprentice painter applies finishing touches to a cheerful border of vines, while curious children watch brushes dance in vibrant reds and greens. A town herald reads the motto aloud, inviting reflection rather than ridicule. As the peddler steps into place, he traces the sunflower with a gloved finger, eyes lifted in contemplation. The scene leaves us with a vivid tableau, a device of accountability rendered warm and inviting by gentle artistry, merging civic identity with restorative intent. Late morning light filters through the narrow arches of the parish churchyard as townsfolk gather for an uncommon spectacle, the public reading of an offender's written confession. In early modern England, carefully scripted apologies, penned in neat copperplate, could serve as a kinder form of penance, transforming shame into sincere reconciliation. Today's subject is a young tailor caught selling poorly stitched garments that unravelled within days. Kneeling before the church door in a modest grey doublet, he holds a folded sheet of parchment. A wooden lectern stands ready, its surface smoothed by generations of sermons and proclamations. The parish clerk steps forward, dipping his quill into ink to underline key phrases. "I did wrong, and I ask your forgiveness," before placing the confession into the tailor's hands. As the tailor rises, his voice, trembles at first, then steadily steadies, carrying the apology across the hushed crowd. Mothers clutch their children, elders nod in solemn approval, and even passing merchants pause their carts. Rather than jeers or derision, the response is murmured empathy. A handful of townsfolk step up to offer work mending seams, while others whisper words of encouragement. When the final line is read, the church bell tolls once, signalling the community's acceptance. The tailor bows deeply, gathers his parchment, and departs to begin anew. In this ritual of voiced contrition, punishment becomes a springboard for restoration, words wielded not as weapons, but as bridges back into the fold of gentle communal life. As late morning light dances across the Guildhall courtyard, the community gathers for the next step of justice, transforming confiscated goods into communal aid. The earlier peddlers' spoiled spice sacks and the baker's inferior flour have been claimed by the sergeant-at-arms and now sit in neatly arranged baskets beneath a striped canopy. The magistrate, flanked by the town treasurer and a small assembly of aldermen, presides over the distribution ceremony. One by one, needy families are called forward, widows, elderly weavers and young apprentices, to receive modest shares. A widow of a fallen soldier accepts a basket of wheat, her eyes glistening with relief. A pair of orphans clutch small sacks of mixed herbs, inhaling hopeful scents. The magistrate speaks softly. "May these provisions ease your burdens and remind us all that mercy follows correction." As each basket is handed over, the treasurer marks the transaction in the grand ledger, noting both offence and charity in the same record. Apprentices of the town painter hang colourful pennants overhead, symbolising unity between justice and compassion. Children dart between baskets as they carry tiny bundles to their mothers. The scene emphasises how early modern England's financial punishments doubled as social welfare. Fines and forfeitures were not waste, but woven back into the village's tapestry. By ceremony's end, the empty baskets stand as silent testament to restored balance, a gentle cycle where penalty becomes provision, and the community's well-being is upheld through shared responsibility. As dusk settles over the Guildhall's inner chamber, the day's events find their final home on parchment and in memory. Here, the town archivist carefully closes the heavy ledger in which fines, forfeitures and distributions were recorded. Ink still glistens on the page marking the apprentice baker's silver fine, the peddler's painted pillory entry, the tailor's confession, and the baskets of aid handed out to the needy. In early modern England, this quiet ritual of archiving ensured that justice remained both visible and accountable. Future magistrates could consult precedent, and the community could recall the balance struck between correction and charity. The archivist, an elderly woman with spectacles perched on her nose and sleeves rolled back, ties the ledger's leather thongs and places it on a high shelf alongside volumes of previous years. A young apprentice helps by lighting a lantern, whose soft glow dances off iron-bound spines. Nearby, the magistrate stands in thoughtful repose, hands clasped, surveying the chamber's hush. A voiceover reminds us that these records are themselves a form of communal care. By preserving the stories of mild rebuke and gentle restoration, the town weaves its values into every line of ink. Outside, the lantern-lit windows cast warm rectangles onto the cobbled street, silent beacons of a society where even punishment ends in compassion, and every entry in the archive is a promise to remember mercy as well as law. At dawn's first light, the tide pulls gently away from the wooden sluices of a coastal village, revealing the relics of an ingenious yet almost forgotten invention, the tidal mill. In early modern England, communities harnessed the ebb and flow of sea and river to grind grain, an elegant solution that married nature's rhythm with human necessity. Today's scene unfolds on a narrow, pebbled causeway, leading to a sturdy timber mill house built over a tidal channel. Inside, the miller, a weathered man with salt-silvered hair, prepares the sluice gates as water retreats, exposing the massive mill wheel's cogs. The air smells of brine and freshly milled flour. A local fisherman carries a wicker basket of mussels, pausing to admire the gear's smooth mechanism, while a curious blacksmith inspects the iron teeth, thoughtful nodding appreciatively at their craftsmanship. As the tide begins its return, sluice gates creak open, and water surges in, spinning the wheel with a gentle roar like distant thunder. Grain funnels into the hopper above, ready for grinding. The narrator's calm voice explains how this whispering wellspring powered whole villages without fire or fossil fuel, embodying a quiet ingenuity softly humming at nature's pace. Nearby, children toss pebbles in the tidal pool, laughing as ripples lap at their boots. This opening tableau of Chapter 4 invites viewers into a world where human creativity flowed in harmony with the elements, an invention both practical and poetic, echoing a time when technology marched hand in hand with the tides. Beneath the mill house's creaking floorboards, the great wooden gears engage in a slow, hypnotic dance. Here, in the dim glow of oil lamps strung along the beams, we find the millwright at work, a lean craftsman whose fingers know every notch and pinion by touch. Surrounded by the soft groan of oaken cogs, he inspects the central axle where tidal force transforms into milling power. Each tooth is hand-hewn from seasoned timber and bound with wrought iron hoops, ensuring years of steady service. In a nearby trough, the sluice's sluicer, an apprentice in a leather jerkin, examines the water flow, adjusting a wooden gate to regulate speed. The millwright pauses to oil the iron bearings with rendered tallow, explaining, in hushed tones, how this simple lubricant prevents squeaks that might disturb early sleepers in adjacent cottages. Above, through grated floor openings, we glimpse sacks of grain swaying gently as the hopper empties. The scene is suffused with a tactile intimacy. The rasp of wood on wood, the hiss of water through channels, and the rhythmic heartbeat of the mill in motion. Here, ingenuity meets quiet craftsmanship, a testament to a forgotten age when human skill and natural rhythms converge beneath a thatched roof. As the apprentice lifts a lamplit lantern higher, the mill's inner cathedral glows with soft amber light, inviting viewers to drift into the mill's gentle embrace. As morning mist lifts from the fields surrounding the mill house, sturdy wagons loaded with freshly ground flour rattle along the rutted lane toward the town's granary. In early modern England, preserving the fruits of tidal milling was as vital as the mill itself. Proper storage ensured communities endured lean months without fear. Today's scene follows the miller and a group of grain carriers as they guide sacks of fine, pale flour into the cool, timber-lined granary. Heavy oak doors swing open to reveal rows of raised wooden bins, their interiors whitewashed to ward off pests. A master granarian, a rotund, kindly figure in a woolen jerkin, inspects each sack's seal, tapping gently to judge consistency. Apprentices tether ropes to a pulley overhead and hoist the sacks into higher bins, their faces lit by the soft glow of beeswax candles. Outside, the millwright joins them, smoothing stray grain from the floor and murmuring tips for preventing spoilage. Ventilation gaps here, lime-washed walls there. As the last sack swings into place, the granary doors close with a firm thud, sealing in the day's labor and the community's sustenance. In hushed tones, the granarian addresses the workers. Quietly, remember, Well-stored provision is the quiet backbone of our village's peace. The tableau closes on sunbeams filtering through high windows, illuminating drifting flower moats, a serene testament to how a simple tidal mill fed not just bodies, but the communal spirit that bound villages together. As late morning sun warms the village green, the freshly milled flour embarks on its next journey, the baker's hearth. Under a striped canopy outside her brick and timber bakehouse, the village baker measures sacks of pale powder into wooden troughs, her experienced hands weighing dough with practiced precision. Today's scene captures the transformation of grain into daily sustenance and communal joy, a simple feast to celebrate the tidal mill's renewal. Neighbors gather in a loose semicircle. Children chase each other between stone benches, while elders settle onto low stools, anticipating the warm aroma of new bread. A young apprentice baker kneads dough, its surface dusted white, as the baker shares a gentle joke about flour flying faster than the tide. Nearby, a pot of herbed oatmeal simmers over a small brazier, its scent of rosemary and thyme underscoring the mill's humble bounty. As the dough rests, the baker invites villagers to press handprints into a large communal loaf, an imprint of their unity and shared labor. When ovens are stoked and the golden crusts emerge, she breaks the bread with a healer's care, passing slices to each onlooker. Soft laughter and murmured thanks ripple through the crowd. The narrator's voice reminds us that this ritual meal embodies the tidal mill's true purpose, not mere mechanics, but nourishing the bonds of fellowship. In flour and fire, the village celebrates how nature's rhythms, human craftsmanship, and communal participation converge in a single warm loaf of bread, a gentle testament to ingenuity served at the table of everyday life. As evening mists roll in from the estuary, the tidal mill's wheel slows to a gentle halt, its last turns echoing like soft breezes through the timber frames. Locals gather at the causeway for a final moment of communal remembrance. The mill's keeper, an elderly woman whose forebears built the mill centuries before, raises a woven banner depicting a flowing wheel beneath a full moon. She invites attendees to share brief recollections of how the mill shaped their lives. The baker speaks of warm loaves that fed newborns. The weaver recounts flour that sustained her loom workers during lean winters. Even the blacksmith recalls mending iron fittings under lamplight to keep the tide turning. A travelling minstrel steps forward, plucking a gentle tune on a wooden lute, each note weaving stories of ingenuity, cooperation, and quiet perseverance. Children scatter seashells along the cobbles as offerings to the water that powered their livelihood. As stars glitter overhead, the mill's keeper ties small talismans, shaped like miniature gears and carved from oyster shells, onto the wooden railing, blessing the mill's spirit for generations to come. The narrator reflects on how this simple device bridged land and sea, human and nature, work and rest, leaving a legacy whispered by every ebb and flow. In this closing tableau of Chapter 4, the tidal mill stands as both monument and living memory, a reminder that gentle innovation, guided by respect for the world's rhythms, can echo through time in stories carried by the wind. As dusk settles over the village green, lantern light dances across the wooden stocks, now emptied of their daytime occupants. In this soft half-light, the stocks serve not as instruments of shame, but as focal points for quiet contemplation. Tonight's scene opens with a solitary figure, an elderly schoolmistress, approaching the stocks by lamplight. She carries a small leather-bound book of proverbs, for earlier she'd misquoted a passage and caused minor confusion in lessons. Rather than cold punishment, the magistrate offered her an evening of still reflection. 1 hour in the stocks, head resting gently on a padded rest, to ponder the weight of words. As she settles in, a hush falls. Villagers pause their evening strolls. Shepherds guide sheep past at a respectful distance. And children lean over low fences, their curiosity tempered by reverence. A local candlemaker kneels nearby, placing a single tallow candle on a stone pedestal, its flickering flame mirroring the schoolmistress's thoughts. Soft crickets serenade the moment, as fireflies drift lazily in the cooling air. The narrator's calm voice notes that this ritual honors the value of knowledge turned humble. In stillness, the schoolmistress finds clarity, and the community witnesses that even those who teach must sometimes learn in gentle silence. As the hour wanes, the candle burns low, casting elongated shadows on the cobbles. A serene testament to the restorative power of pause and reflection in early modern justice. As the stock's hour of reflection ends, the townsfolk linger around the now empty pillory, its wooden boards bathed in the soft glow of lanterns hung from nearby posts. Rather than mockery, this evening's gathering takes the form of a storytelling circle, an oral lesson spun around the very device once used for minor transgressions. A kindly schoolmaster, released moments ago, settles upon a low bench and begins recounting ancestral tales of honesty and community care by lamplight. Children sit cross-legged on the cobbles, faces illuminated by flickering tallow flames. Parents stand behind, arms folded but smiles gentle. The pillory itself becomes a silent stage, its simple frame painted with sunflowers and vines, reminding listeners that even correction grows from seeds of hope. As the schoolmaster weaves a parable about a merchant who found redemption after a single night in the pillory, the hush deepens. Only the soft crackle of the lantern wicks punctuates his measured tone. Nearby, the magistrate nods in approval, leaning on his staff as he absorbs the tale's moral. When the final words drift into the night air, a travelling minstrel steps forward to strum a lullaby on his lute, each note weaving the story's lesson into a lullaby of collective memory. In this gentle ceremony, the pillory transforms from instrument of shame into anchor of shared values, demonstrating that stories, like lighted lanterns, can guide even the most wayward soul back toward the warmth of community. In the hush of twilight outside the smithy, the air scented with embers and cooling iron, our focus shifts to a unique form of penance, the forging of an apology token. In early modern England, offenders of certain social slights, like a tailor who neglected his patron's cloak trim, were tasked with crafting a small object symbolizing their remorse. Here stands the tailor, sleeves rolled, at the anvil's side, working under the watchful eye of the village blacksmith. The forge's glow flickers across his determined face as he hammers a flat disc of soft copper into a heart shape. Sparks drift like fireflies, while the blacksmith murmurs gentle guidance. Let the metal bear your intent. Around them, curious onlookers, seamstresses, apprentices, and the magistrate's clerk observe in respectful silence. As the heart cools, the tailor files its edges smooth and inscribes the single word "pax," peace, with a small chisel. A local weaver brings a length of ribbon dyed indigo, knotting it deftly through a loop. The narrator's calm voice reminds viewers that this crafted pendant would be presented at the next market day, a tangible pledge of good faith. In this ritual, the physical labor of creation becomes both penance and promise. Through careful, mindful craftsmanship, the offender transforms a mistake into an opportunity to mend social bonds. The scene closes on the tailor, holding the glowing copper heart aloft, the smithy's lantern light dancing across its smooth surface, a silent vow forged in metal and community trust. As market day dawns, the town square hums with quiet activity under fluttering pennants. In its center, a simple wooden lectern holds the handcrafted copper heart pendant on an indigo ribbon. Today's offender, the tailor who forged this pax token, steps forward in his best doublet, heart pounding with humble resolve. A small crowd gathers, merchants arranging stalls, shoppers with baskets, curious children peeking between barrels of ale. The magistrate, robed in muted grey, rises to introduce the ritual. Let this token bear witness to remorse transformed into promise. The tailor bows deeply, then lifts the pendant and hangs it upon a sturdy oak post carved with the town crest. As its copper surface catches the morning sun, a hush falls. Then, one by one, townsfolk lay small offerings: spun wool from the weaver, a loaf from the baker, a strip of tanned leather from the cobbler, at the pendant's base, symbolizing their shared support. The tailor, voice steady, addresses the crowd. "I vow honest craft and fair measure henceforth." A ripple of soft applause and murmured "Amen" follows. The magistrate nods approvingly and pronounces the rite complete. "May this act bind you ever closer to our community of trust." With that, the pendant becomes both memorial and marker, a physical testament that mistakes, when met with craftsmanship and courage, can lead to renewed bonds. The scene closes as a breeze lifts the ribbon, setting the heart to swing gently above the tokens of goodwill, a living emblem of restored harmony. As twilight lanterns glow along the market's perimeter, the copper heart pendant swings softly in the evening breeze, its indigo ribbon a vivid streak against the darkening sky. In this final scene of Chapter 5, we witness how the community carries forward the tail end of reconciliation long after formal rituals conclude. The tailor, no longer a fender but once again a respected artisan, moves among the stalls, greeting neighbors who touch the pendant's post as they pass, offering smiles and brief nods. A young apprentice baker pauses her bread kneading to catch its sway. A weaver threads new tapestry yarn inspired by the heart's shape. Even the magistrate stops by, placing a fresh sprig of lavender at the base, symbol of calm and trust renewed. Nearby, children chase lantern fireflies beneath fluttering pennants, their laughter echoing the hope woven into the pendant's promise. In quieter moments, passers-by press coins into a small donation box tucked beside the post, a fund to aid any future offenders seeking to make amends. The narrator's calm voice reminds viewers that true restoration unfolds not in a single day, but across shared moments. Every touch of the pendant, every offering, every exchange of kind words reinforces the bonds of fellowship. As the tailor pauses to admire a newly woven tapestry of grey and indigo, its pattern mirroring the heart's silhouette, the market lights dim, and one lone lantern remains, casting a gentle glow on the silent emblem. In this serene tableau, we see early modern justice at its most humane, a cycle of offense, apology, and communal embrace that transforms a simple metal heart into a lasting symbol of unity. As amber dusk settles over the timbered rooftops, a single bell tolls from the town's watchtower, its resonant peal a gentle summons to evening repose. In early modern England, the curfew bell regulated daily life, not as a strict mandate enforcing darkness, but as a communal cue to wind down hearth fires and share quiet time with neighbours. Tonight's scene follows the bellman, a lean figure draped in a dark cloak, ascending narrow spiral stairs to the wooden belfry. He raises the heavy clapper against the cast-iron bell, each strike echoing through winding lanes and over thatch. Below, bakers close ovens and shepherds herd flocks toward pens. Children pause mid-chase, pressing palms to ears. Tavern keepers lower oil lamps, softening the alehouse glow. The narrator's calm voice explains that this ritual fostered shared rhythms, hearth-lit conversations, hushed prayers, and the comforting knowledge that the village rested as one. As the bell's last toll fades, a lantern-bearing apothecary steps from her shop, sweeping curfew dust from doorsteps, while a town crier's apprentice secures his parchments and quill. In the square, neighbours exchange goodnight bows, an unspoken vow of care until dawn. The scene closes with the bellman extinguishing his lantern and descending, the belfry's silhouette framed against starlit sky. In this moment, the curfew bell emerges, not as rigid control but as a soft embrace, an audible lullaby weaving every household into the gentle cadence of communal rest. With the curfew bell's last echo fading into the night, the village lanterns come alive, guided by the lamplighter's measured footsteps. In early modern England, ensuring hearths and streets were safely lit and fires properly banked was both a civic duty and a gentle form of public oversight. Tonight's scene follows the lamplighter, a wiry figure in a soot-smudged coat, as he moves door to door along the narrow lanes. In one cottage, he pauses to peer through a half-shuttered window, nods approvingly, nodding approval at the neatly covered hearth embers. In another, he advises a young couple to weave straw around their hearthstones to prevent stray sparks, offering a small coil from his leather satchel. Each household greets him with respectful bows. A baker dims her oven light. A seamstress lowers her candle wick, tucking her work safely under cloth. The lamplighter's lantern casts pools of pale light on mossy stone walls and thatched eaves, guiding both wayfarers and villagers homeward. As he reaches the inn, the keeper greets him with a grateful smile and pours him a cup of cool water, a customary token of thanks. The narrator's calm voice explains that these nightly rounds were less about enforcement and more about care. By guiding each neighbour to safe repose, the lamplighter wove a network of mutual watchfulness. At the lane's end, he extinguishes his lantern's flame with a soft hiss, signalling his final check. In this quiet ritual of shared responsibility, the lantern becomes a beacon of communal trust, illuminating not only streets, but the bonds that keep every hearth and heart secure through the night. Long after most hearths have dimmed, a lone sentinel maintains a gentle vigil atop the watchtower's wooden balcony. The midnight watch serve not to strike fear but to offer reassurance, an ever-present guardian who might spot stray travellers or tend flickering beacons. This evening's watcher is a retired soldier turned town guard, settling his lantern beside a coil of rope and a small brazier of embers. Below, moonlight pools on the cobbled streets, illuminating shuttered windows and the silhouettes of sleeping cottages. From his lofty perch he surveys the quiet hamlet, listening for distant coughs or the bark of a lone dog, signals that he might gently investigate or summon aid. At his side hangs a leather satchel with a flask of warm broth and a woolen cloak, ready should he need to comfort a traveller caught out by the curfew. As the hour waxes, a soft breeze brings the faint sound of a carriage's creak on the far road. The sentinel carefully lowers a signal lantern, guiding the lone coach toward the inn rather than the unlit lane. A distant church clock tolls 12. The guard offers a silent prayer for those at rest and those on restless journeys. In his quiet watch, we glimpse early modern England's ethos of benevolent oversight, where protection and hospitality blended, and a single lantern in the tower could mean warmth, welcome, and safety for all in the moonlit hours. After the midnight watch, the sentinel descends from the tower to rest beside a humble hearth in the guardhouse. Here, the ritual shifts from outward vigilance to inward restoration. The guardhouse, a timbered room warmed by a low-burning fire, serves as both refuge and meeting place for late-night watchers. Tonight's scene finds the night sentinel and two fellow watchmen seated on rough-hewn benches, sharing a simple supper of stew and coarse bread. A battered lantern hangs overhead, casting dancing shadows across ale-smudged faces. One watchman recounts a, softly, soft-spoken, legend of the town's founding bell, a tale meant to soothe nerves and remind them of generations who kept the peace before. The sentinel listens, stirring his broth thoughtfully, then offers his own quiet story of guiding a lost child safely home under just such a curfew bell. As the fire crackles, their voices drop to whispering, hushed tones, each tale weaving a thread of kinship. Outside, a owl hoot, lone owl calls in the dark, and the wind rattles shuttered windows. No guardsman here bears a weapon drawn, only the shared bond of duty, fellowship, and the knowledge that even those who watch must sometimes rest. In these hearthside tales, the night watch transforms from solitary duty into communal grace, a moment of human warmth amid chilly hours, reminding viewers that gentle justice includes care for those who stand guard. The scene closes on the sentinel's lantern, its yellow glow reflecting in his eyes as he leans back, momentarily at peace, before the next bell toll demands his rise once more. Before the sun's first rosy glow touches the rooftops, The night sentinel descends the narrow tower stairs one last time, lantern in hand. His vigil complete, the belfry awaits the morning's new keeper. In the square below, the baker's apprentice arrives with a steaming loaf wrapped in cloth as a silent thank you, while the candlemaker wheels a cart of fresh tallow candles for the day's lamps. The sentinel pauses beneath the watchtower arch, pausing to extinguish his lantern in a final, soft hiss. At that moment, the first church bell rings out, its clear peal a call to open shutters, light hearth fires, and begin daily labours. Villagers stir. A milkmaid leads her cow toward the barn. A blacksmith opens his forge door, inhaling the crisp air. Children peer from windows, rubbing sleep from their eyes. The narrator's voice reflects on how the night's gentle oversight dissolves seamlessly into communal renewal, justice and care woven through each hour of rest and rise. As the sentinel hands his coil of rope and brazier to the awaiting morning watchman, he offers a brief nod and disappears into the weaving alleys, free to join his own family's dawn meal. The new guard ascends the tower steps, lantern unlit but ready, while the church's second peal fades into birdsong. In this closing tableau of Chapter 6, the cycle of night and day, watch and rest, care and duty completes its arc, an ever-turning rhythm that underpins a community's gentle harmony from curfew to cockcrow. As pale dawn light filters through the mist over the village green, attention turns to a curious instrument of correction, the whipping stool. Far from the harsh rack of legend, this device was reserved for those guilty of boisterous or disorderly conduct, an offence seen as a threat to communal peace rather than a grave crime. Today's ritual begins before sunrise, so that the offender's trial and brief public penance conclude before the day's labours commence. The wooden stool, low and stout, sits beneath a simple archway carved with the town's crest and the motto Pax et Modestia, peace and modesty. At its side stands a soft woven cushion, intended to protect the back from severe harm. A bailiff in a brown leather jerkin inspects the stool's rounded top, ensuring the cushion is properly secured, all under the watchful eye of the magistrate, whose gentle voice explains to the gathered townsfolk that the ritual aims to encourage humility, not injury. Our offender, a jovial tinker accused of leading late-night revels with drunken carousing, approaches in plain working clothes, hands clasped behind his back. A hush falls as the magistrate recounts the tinker's missteps, disrupted rest, broken windows, and songs too loud for peaceful slumber. The tinker kneels at the bailiff's cue, lowers himself onto the cushioned stool, and bows his head in contrition. The bailiff raises a small braided tawse and delivers 3 light taps, each more a tap on the shoulder of conscience than a lash on flesh. Ripples through the onlookers, and the magistrate pronounces the ritual complete. Go forth in quiet heart and mindful step. As the tinker rises, cheeks flushed, but spirit intact, the crowd disperses into dawn's glow, having witnessed a lesson in restraint delivered with dignity and care. With the morning mist still lingering on dewy grass, our attention shifts to the aftermath of the whipping stool ritual. Though the tinker walked away unharmed in body, a tender marking of belt straps on his shoulders remains, a reminder of his public penance. In early modern England, caring for these marks was part of the communal correction. Neighbours brought soothing salves and herbal poultices to ensure the wounds healed quietly. Today's scene unfolds at the hearth of the candlemaker's workshop, where a sturdy oak table is laid with small glass jars of lavender oil, crushed comfrey leaves, and beeswax balm. The tinker arrives, shoulders wrapped in a linen cloth, and kneels before the candlemaker's apprentice. Together, they warm the beeswax balm over a gentle brazier flame, stirring in comfrey to encourage skin repair and a drop of rosewater for calm. A local apothecary's daughter fetches a sprig of rosemary, known for its antiseptic touch, and crushes the needles between her fingers, releasing a fragrant steam. As the apprentice applies the lukewarm salve in careful circles, the tinker's expression eases from contrition to relief. Neighbours pause in the street outside, watching this intimate moment of care rather than scorn. The magistrate's voice drifts through an open window, an off-camera reminder that true justice attends both correction and compassion. When the final dressing is secured, the tinker stands and offers a small, grateful bow to his healer. In this quiet interlude, viewers see that early modern punishments were never isolated rituals but woven into the fabric of neighbourly concern, ensuring that public lesson and private healing marched hand in hand. Late morning sunlight filters through fluttering pennants strung between timbered posts as the offender and community join in a peacemaking ritual. After his brief penance on the whipping stool and the careful tending of his shoulders, the tinker now participates in creating the garland of reconciliation, a woven ring of fresh herbs and flowers, symbolizing restored harmony. Beneath a simple arbor in the village green, the tinker kneels alongside an elder herbalist and a group of neighbors, each bringing sprigs of rosemary for fidelity, lavender for calm, and wild roses for goodwill. The herbalist softly guides his hands, showing how to braid stems into a sturdy circle. As the garland takes shape, children weave in colorful ribbons, each knot representing a promise to uphold peace. Villagers, a gentle refrain, an old tune about community bonds, while the magistrate looks on with a satisfied nod. When the wreath is complete, the magistrate steps forward, takes the garland, and places it upon the tinker's head. Let this crown remind you that our trust is renewed. The crowd offers a soft chorus of approval and a few light claps, more a communal whisper than applause. The tinker rises, garland resting on his brow, and bows deeply to the assembled neighbors. In this moment of shared creation and affirmation, the ritual transforms correction into celebration, a living testament that true restitution blossoms through collective care and artistry. By midday, the village green transforms into a vibrant tableau of renewal as neighbors gather for the restoration feast, a communal meal celebrating the tinker's reintegration after his penance. Long trestle tables are laden with hearty pottage, freshly baked loaves, stewed apples, and bowls of buttered turnips. Under colourful pennants strung between oaks, the once offender now presides at the head of the table, resplendent in his best tunic, a subtle smile playing on his lips. The magistrate steps forward to offer a brief blessing. Today, we break bread not in judgment, but in joyful fellowship. As wooden platters pass hand to hand, villagers share morsels and laughter. A baker's apprentice pours ale from a flagon into simple wooden mugs. A shepherd lad deposits a basket of sheep's cheese. The tinker lifts his mug in gratitude, raising it toward every face in turn. Elder herbalists circulate jugs of floral mead, its honeyed warmth undercutting any lingering remorse. Children weave between benches, offering wildflower posies to guests. In this convivial scene, the feast itself becomes a living expression of restorative justice. The community gathers not to mark an end, but to celebrate a new beginning. Stories of the whipping stool, the apology pendant, and the garland of reconciliation are retold in gentle jokes and nods, reinforcing the day's lessons. By sharing sustenance and song, the villagers weave the tinker permanently back into their tapestry. As the sun tilts westward and the last crusts are broken, the narrator's voice reflects that true harmony is found not in punishment alone, but in the generous grace that follows. As dusk drapes the village green in gentle shadows, a final ceremony unfolds to seal the tinker's restoration and remind all of the value of community calm. Beneath a softly glowing lantern hung from the arbor, the magistrate returns to offer the closing benediction, a whispered invocation of peace and modesty. The tinker, still adorned with his garland of reconciliation and seated upon the whipping stool's refurbished cushion, bows his head respectfully. Villagers ring small handbells, each a private chime rather than clang, to signal collective resolve to uphold tranquility. The magistrate, voice low and measured, intones. May your hands be steady and your words be measured. May this night's rite ensure our village sleeps in harmony. As each phrase drifts into the night air, a gentle breeze carries the bell tones through the lanes. The tinker lifts his gaze, his eyes reflecting lantern light and the faces of neighbours who stand in silent vigil. Then, in unison, the crowd lowers their bells, and the magistrate places a single white rose, the emblem of modesty, into the tinker's open palm. A hush follows, held as tenderly as the rose itself. As the lantern's flame flickers, the tinker rises, rose in hand, and steps forward to place it at the base of the oak post that bore his apology pendant. Villagers stand back, offering nods instead of applause, their expressions serene. In this whispered rite, punishment and forgiveness converge in a moment of shared stillness. The scene closes on the tinker's silhouette against the lantern glow, rose petals scattered at his feet, an enduring symbol that true peace is forged not by force, but by gentle, collective commitment to one another's well-being. Frederick, Surrey. As the first pink light of dawn spills across the cobbles, a small gathering forms before the wooden scaffold where the Scold's bridle rests, an iron-framed headpiece lined with soft leather and carved with gentle motifs. Unlike its fearsome reputation, the bridle in early modern villages was employed sparingly and with care, meant to curb hasty tongue lashings rather than inflict pain. Today's wearer is a respected yet sharp-tongued laundress whose fervent admonishments at market unsettled neighbours. The bailiff, his voice low and compassionate, gently places the padded bridle atop her head, its iron bit resting lightly against her tongue. The townsfolk, baker, weaver, miller, and children, watch in patient silence, understanding this ritual's aim, to prompt reflection on the power of words. A kindly herbalist approaches, offering a cup of lavender honey tea to soothe nerves. As the laundress stands with bridle in place, the magistrate's calm voice reminds everyone that misused speech can wound more deeply than any lash, but that forgiveness follows restraint. Sunbeams catch the leather lining's embossed floral pattern, softening the device's outline. Nearby, a schoolmistress reads aloud a brief passage on gentle speech from a well-worn etiquette manual, each word a balm for both speaker and listener. The scene closes on the laundress raising the teacup with measured grace, eyes meeting her neighbours in silent apology and gratitude. In this unusual dawn ritual, the Scold's bridle appears not as cruel instrument, but as a crafted prompt toward kinder conversation, weaving restraint and renewal into the fabric of communal life. As the dawn sun rises higher, the Scold's bridle's gentle grip begins to lift, both physically and metaphorically, marking a transition from restraint to renewal. Villagers reconvene beneath the soft shadow of the scaffold's archway, where the laundress stands poised for the bridle's removal. The bailiff, voice low and reassuring, loosens the leather straps and tilts the iron frame forward, revealing her face, eyes bright with newfound humility. Neighbours form a respectful semicircle. The baker offers a small cloth for comfort. The weaver holds sprigs of rosemary for calm. Children clutch tiny posies of lavender. Once freed, the laundress steps forward to address the assembly, voice clear, yet gentle. She speaks of the power of measured words, apologizing for her earlier outbursts and pledging to temper her tongue with kindness. As she speaks, the magistrate's calm voice, off-camera, underscores her words. In acknowledging our faults, we bind ourselves closer in trust. The assembled townsfolk nod in unison, murmuring approval, some murmuring approval, others offering a soft amen. After her brief discourse, a kindly schoolmistress presents a small book of proverbs, gently inscribed with highlights on moderation, to serve as her guide. The laundress accepts it with a humble bow. The scene closes on her stepping down from the scaffold, lavender posy in hand, walking among neighbours once more as equals, her voice now a thread of harmony woven into the village tapestry. Late morning light filters through fluttering pennants as the laundress joins a special market day ritual, the weighing of words. A simple scale stands beneath a cloth canopy, its pans empty, save for a parchment scroll of community speech pledges. In early modern England, this ceremony reminded gentlefolk that every promise must be as balanced as any coin. Today, the freed laundress and several neighbours step forward, each voicing a pledge of courteous conduct, short statements like "I will speak softly at market" or "I will listen twice as much as I speak." With each promise, the bailiff places a small token, a ribbon, a flower or a coin into one pan, then weights it with a heart-shaped copper token in the other. The scale settles evenly, its beam level under the sun. The magistrates off camera notes that true harmony in speech, like in trade, relies on fair balance. Curious children peer through the canopy's edge, while a town crier's apprentice records each pledge in neat copperplate. When the last promise is weighed, the laundress steps forward with a sprig of rosemary, her token for words seasoned with kindness, and places it gently in the scale's pan. The beam tilts slightly, then finds equilibrium as the heart token settles beside it. A soft murmur of approval ripples through the crowd. In this gentle exercise, the community, as mid-morning sun warms the bustling fair, we shift from private penance to public practice, the market of measured voices. Under striped cloth stalls and fluttering pennants, traders and townsfolk convene to buy, sell, and speak with mindful restraint. Today's laundress, her Scold's bridle removed and her pledge honoured, moves among the stalls, greeting merchants with a calm tone and careful courtesy. A silversmith demonstrates delicate spoons. Instead of his usual brisk sales pitch, he now offers a soft "good morrow" and lets the metal speak its own beauty. Nearby, a fishmonger's apprentice practices the laundress's gentle cadence when calling out today's catch. "Fresh sole and trout, kindly priced for your table." Each vendor recites a brief phrase of gratitude, "Thank you for your custom," before ringing small handbells instead of shouting prices. Patrons too mirror this courtesy. They ask questions in measured tones and respond with nods rather than interruptions. The magistrate, strolling through the fair, observes approvingly, his voiceover reminding that commerce thrives when voices are tempered with respect. A savoury scent of spiced ale wafts past, and even the children selling posies refrain from boisterous cries, offering "a posy if it please you" in soft unison. As the laundress exchanges her first sale, a linen cloth for a small coin, she smiles warmly and inclines her head in thanks, her actions now a model for the market's new ethos. The scene closes on the fair's merry hum, a tapestry of gentle voices woven into every transaction, where the simple practice of measured speech becomes the cornerstone of communal prosperity. As midday light warms the village's communal herb garden, our final scene unfolds among neatly tended beds of lavender, rosemary, and chamomile. Here, the laundress, now free of the Scold's bridle and having honoured her pledge, joins neighbours in planting new herb starts as living symbols of measured speech. Under a simple trellis adorned with twining vines, the herbalist elder demonstrates how to space each sprig for optimal growth, explaining that, just as words must be thoughtfully chosen, plants need room to flourish. The laundress kneels in soft earth, pressing a rosemary cutting into a prepared hole, while the magistrate, standing to one side, sprinkles holy water from a carved wooden bowl, blessing the garden's purpose. Children gather chamomile seedlings as they pat soil around each root, while the baker's apprentice gently sets lavender plants in a nearby row. A low hum of conversation drifts through the garden, soft reminders of kind greetings and attentive listening, each utterance as nurturing as the water they pour. When the final rosemary is planted, the herbalist... At first light, a hush falls over the village as a small procession gathers at the old chapel doorway. Today's ritual is the pilgrimage penance, a symbolic journey to the holy well for those whose careless actions sowed minor discord. Here, a young shepherd caught grazing his flock too near a neighbour's garden. Rather than stocks or fines, he must walk barefoot along the winding footpath to the well, reflecting on his misdeed with each deliberate step. The bailiff, carrying a simple wooden staff carved with the town crest, leads the way. Behind him, the shepherd follows in homespun wool, head bowed, carrying a small wicker basket of wildflowers as an offering. A priest in a muted grey habit brings up the rear, guiding quietly with blessings and soft prayers. Along the path, neighbours, farmers, weavers, children stand at intervals, offering water from pewter cups and murmuring brief words of encouragement. Remember gentleness. May this cool your spirit. Birds call overhead, and the dawn mist cloaks the hedgerows in soft silver. At the well's edge, the priest waters the shepherd's feet before he kneels and places his floral tribute on the moss-covered stones. He then draws a handful of cool water and sprinkles it lightly over his own head, symbolizing cleansing and renewal. The well's ancient stone rim bears carved crosses and initials of past penitents, a living ledger of community care. As the shepherd stands, water dripping from his hair, the bailiff nods approval and proclaims, firmly, "Go forth with mindful heart." The shepherd lifts his gaze, gratitude in his eyes, and joins the villagers in a shared hymn. In this gentle pilgrimage, penance unfolds not as punishment, but as a paced journey toward restored harmony. Beneath the ancient stone arch that shelters the holy well, dawn's mist mingles with the gentle gurgle of water as our penitent shepherd kneels once more. The priest dips a simple iron ladle into the cool spring, lifting it toward the crowd to catch the first sliver of sunlight. Neighbours, farmers, children, and the elderly gather in a loose circle, each holding a small token, a sprig of mint, a carved wooden fish, or a length of braided straw. One by one they approach, whispering their own pledges of kindness into the ladle before letting the water drizzle over their tokens and return to the well. When it reaches the shepherd's turn, he places his wicker basket of wildflowers at the well's rim, then presses his calloused hands together and murmurs a vow to respect boundaries and share pastures fairly. As the water splashes over his hands, droplets catch the morning light like tiny prisms, sealing his promise. The priest intones softly, "May this well's purity mirror the clarity of your heart." A hush follows, broken only by the well's constant murmur and a single dove cooing from the eaves of the chapel roof. In this consecrated moment, the community's collective pledges ripple outward, binding each vow to the living spring. The scene closes on the priest refilling the ladle and passing it back into the shadows of the well, the shepherd rising with renewed purpose and the villagers dispersing along the dew-damp path, each carrying a drop of the well's gentle covenant within them. After the pledges and water's edge vow, the shepherd withdraws along a moss-lined path to a secluded alcove beside the well, a small grotto formed by ancient stone. Here, he sits on a worn bench carved with simple crosses, cradling his feet in his hands as the cool spring water drips over them in a carved channel. The alcove is hushed save for the gentle drip-drip of the source and the distant hymn of birds awakening in the hedgerows. Sunlight filters through ivy-draped stones, dappling the shepherd's hair in gold. In early modern penance journeys, this solitary pause allowed a penitent to meditate on the lessons of humility, respect, and the interdependence of all who share the land. A small wooden plaque set into the wall bears the words, "In stillness we hear the heart." The shepherd closes his eyes and breathes deeply, recalling the kindness shown by neighbours en route. He dips a wildflower into the channel and holds it before his heart, letting water bead on its petals, an unspoken prayer of gratitude. Nearby, a lantern swings gently from a hook, its last ember of oil casting a warm glow against the cool stone. The narrator's soft voice reminds viewers that true penance engages both body and spirit. By embracing silent reflection, the shepherd internalizes the community's gentle values, preparing him to return home with renewed purpose and open ears. As the scene fades, the shepherd rises, gathers his basket, and steps back onto the winding path, his pilgrimage complete in both deed and inward transformation. With the morning sun climbing over verdant ridges, the shepherd begins the homeward leg of his pilgrimage, each footstep echoing the vows made at the holy well. The path winds upward through grazing fields and hedgerows, where neighbours pause, sheep herders, orchard keepers, and woodcutters, to greet him with respectful nods. At a knotted oak, halfway along the ridge, the shepherd stops to rest, leaning on his staff as he reflects on the journey's lessons, respect for boundaries, the weight and wonder of words, and the gift of communal care. He unpacks his basket and offers wildflowers to a passing shepherd's daughter, who in turn sprinkles fresh spring water from her own flask onto the oak's roots, a symbolic sharing of the well's purity. Birds call overhead, and the breeze carries distant church bells, reminding him of the village's steady heartbeat. As he descends toward home, the bailiff falls in beside him, offering a simple loaf baked that dawn and a verse from the priest's manual. As water flows true, so may your words guide. The shepherd smiles in gratitude, tucking the loaf into his shirt and steadying his gait. At the final turn, the village comes into view, smoke curling from chimneys, children playing in the dirt lane, and the well's distant arch framed by swaying grasses. In this closing scene of Chapter 9, the return proves that penance is not merely an act, but a lived transformation. The pilgrim walks home not as a penitent, but as a bearer of the well's whispered covenant, each step a testament to the gentle justice that flows through every path of community life. Late morning sunlight filters through stained glass into the humble village chapel, where the pilgrimage concludes with a communal benediction. The shepherd enters barefoot, cloak dusted from the ridge, carrying his emptied wicker basket. He pauses at the threshold as the congregation, farmers, weavers, children, elders, rises in respectful silence. The priest stands before the carved oak altar, its linen cloth trimmed in simple green embroidery, symbolizing renewal. With a gentle smile, he raises his hands and intones, "Blessed are those who seek harmony. May this homeward path be ever gentle." As the priest sprinkles holy water in a slow arc, droplets catch the colored light, dancing across the stone floor. The shepherd steps forward to kneel on a worn cushion, head bowed, as neighbors ripple forward to lay small tokens. Wildflower sprigs, a ribbon from his bridle, a cup of fresh spring water at the altar's foot. Each offering is received by a server, whose calm nod acknowledges the shared journey. A choir of children softly sings a hymn of peace, their voices weaving through the nave like a lullaby. When the song ends, the priest places a single sprig of rosemary in the shepherd's hand and whispers, "Carry this blessing into every field you tend." The shepherd rises, meeting his neighbor's eyes in wordless gratitude, and steps back into the aisle. The congregation bows in unison, sealing the rite in collective reverence. As the final notes of the hymn fade, the shepherd departs through the open chapel door, his heart light, his vows upheld, and his place restored within the gentle embrace of his community's faith. As late morning sun gilds the cobblestones, the village gathers for the farewell procession, a gentle tribute to those whose journeys of correction and renewal have woven them back into the community's embrace. Today we honor 3 participants, the tinker, laundress, and shepherd, each now embodiments of the gentle justice they once experienced. Under a canopy of fluttering pennants, villagers form 2 parallel lines along the main thoroughfare. At its head, the magistrate in muted grey robes raises a scroll bearing their names and deeds of penance. Let all who walk this path remember mercy's grace. One by one, the 3 step forward. The tinker dons his garland of reconciliation, The laundress carries a sprig-twined bridal banner. The shepherd shoulders his wooden staff, etched with the well's crest. Behind them, children scatter petals of rosemary and lavender, and neighbours offer small tokens, woven ribbons, wildflower posies, and fresh bread loaves. A band of town musicians plays a soft refrain on recorders and dulcimers, lending a gentle rhythm to each step. As the procession moves toward the churchyard gates, the crowd walks in silent accompaniment, each face reflecting respect and renewed trust. The narrator's voice notes that this farewell is not an end, but a shared celebration. Each participant, once penitent, now leads the community forward in kindness and care. At the churchyard's threshold, the magistrate rolls up his scroll, and the three honorees pause beneath an arch of flowering branches. With a final nod, they bow, and the procession disperses into warm applause that feels more like a collective heartbeat than accolade. An enduring harmony of justice, compassion, and fellowship. As midday sun warms the ripening grain, villagers converge at the old boundary marker where fields meet forest for the blessing of the fields, a final act in the farewell procession. Today's honorees, the tinker, laundress, and shepherd, stand beneath a simple wooden arch entwined with fresh wheat sheaves and wild flowers. The magistrate, flanked by the village priest and the herbalist elder, leads the ceremony. In early modern tradition, this blessing asked nature's favor on both crops and community, symbolizing the restored members' role as stewards of the land. The priest sprinkles consecrated water from a brass bowl, murmuring prayers for gentle rains and bountiful harvests. The herbalist drapes garlands of rosemary and oats over each honoree's shoulders, invoking resilience and remembrance. The tinker grips his garland of reconciliation, the laundress her bridal banner, and the shepherd his carved staff. Together, they form a living emblem of mercy's return. Villagers kneel in rows, farmers clutch sickles, millers hold grain scoops, and children carry tiny baskets of barley. A gentle breeze carries the scent of lavender and chamomile as the priest. May these fields flourish in peace, as our hearts have found renewal. Soft strains of a dulcimer and recorder drift from the musicians, underscoring the moment's solemn grace. As each blessing is pronounced, the honorees step forward to cast handfuls of blessed grain along the furrows, their motions echoing the sowing of new beginnings. In this pastoral tableau, the community's gentle justice culminates in a shared vow to nurture land and neighbor alike, ensuring that mercy's seeds, once sown in penance, bloom in every furrow of village life. By late afternoon, the fields that were blessed at dawn now yield their fruits for a communal harvest feast on the village green. Long trestle tables arranged in a loose U hold platters of fresh grain breads, roasted root vegetables, bowls of barley porridge flavored with herbs, and jugs of spiced cider. The tinker, laundress, and shepherd, each honored this morning, preside at the center, their symbols of reconciliation beside them. The garland of reconciliation, the bridal banner, and the carved staff. Villagers stream in carrying baskets of vegetables, wheels of cheese, and woven corn dollies. As the magistrate lifts his mug to toast prosperity born of mercy, children pass around small wooden plates offering slices to elders and newcomers alike. A baker's apprentice showcases loaves made from blessed grain, while a miller pours fresh flour porridge into waiting bowls. Nearby, the herbalist elder sprinkles chamomile petals over sweet puddings, invoking calm digestion, along with community warmth. Chuckles. Laughter and low conversation rise like gentle waves, punctuated by the soft clink of wooden mugs and the crackle of a small brazier where chestnuts roast. The narrator's warm voice reflects that this feast is more than sustenance. It is a living symbol of the cycle from penance to provision, weaving every hand that planted, blessed, and harvested into a single tapestry of shared care. As twilight edges the sky, lanterns are lit, their glow mingling with the day's fading light, underscoring that the bonds reforged today will carry the village through every season's turn. As afternoon light filters through the broad canopy of the ancient village oak, the farewell procession reaches its final ceremonial station. Known as the Oak of Remembrance, this venerable tree bears a smooth patch of exposed bark, its sacrificial face reserved for inscribing names and pledges. Today, the tinker, laundress, and shepherd approach in turn, each accompanied by the magistrate and herbalist elder. With a small chisel tied to a leather thong, the magistrate gently carves the tinker's name beside a floral motif, marking Mercy's hand as his emblem. The tinker bows, placing a sprig of lavender into a hollow at the oak's base. Next, the laundress holds her bridal banner aloft, while the herbalist dips a bundle of rosemary into ink and presses its stems against the bark, leaving a fragrant imprint beside her name. Finally, the shepherd steps forward, his staff in hand, and the magistrate carves his name beside a miniature well symbol. The shepherd then pours a handful of blessed grain into a root hollow as a token of continual growth. Children circle the oak, tying ribbons of indigo, rose, and gold to low branches, their soft knots fluttering in the breeze. Neighbors stand back, touching the trunk in quiet farewell. The oak's broad trunk, now adorned with names, tokens, and foliage, stands as living testimony to each journey of restoration, its rings forever bearing witness to the cycles of penance, care, and community. As the final ribbon is tied, the magistrate invites all to lay a hand upon the oak's sturdy trunk. The thrumming collective palm print resonates like a heartbeat, sealing legacy in living wood. In this moment, the Oak of Remembrance becomes the community's enduring monument, each inscription a promise carried in the tree's silent strength. As the sun dips low, painting the sky in rose and gold, the farewell procession reaches its final pause at the churchyard gate. The tinker, laundress, and shepherd stand beneath the wrought iron arch, their symbols of renewal, garland, banner, and staff, glowing softly in the evening light. Villagers form a semicircle, faces lit by lanterns and the last embers of dusk. The magistrate steps forward one last time, voice warm and resonant. May the mercy you have known guide your days, and the bonds you've reforged bear you safely through all seasons. With that benediction, the three honorees each step across the threshold. The tinker lays his floral garland on a stone bench. The laundress ties her bridal banner to the gate's latch. The shepherd rests his staff against the ironwork. As they turn to face their neighbours, a hush falls, broken only by the soft toll of the church bell. Children hold lit lanterns aloft, their flames flickering like tiny stars, while elders offer quiet nods and blessings. In a gesture of communal solidarity, the congregation slowly raises their lanterns skyward, forming a canopy of light that frames the gate. The three quietly take each other's hands, forming a gentle link of fellowship. Before stepping back into the village, they now rejoin as equals. The narrator's voice drifts over the tableau, noting that true justice journeys from penance to promise, and ends in a shared light that kindles hope in every heart. As the last bell fades and lanterns glow into the night, the scene closes on the churchyard gate, now adorned with ribbon, garland, and staff, silent testament to a community's enduring grace. As the sun dips low, painting the sky in rose and gold, the farewell procession reaches its final pause at the churchyard gate. The tinker, laundress, and shepherd stand beneath the wrought iron arch, their symbols of renewal, garland, banner, and staff, glowing softly in the evening light. Villagers form a semicircle, faces lit by lanterns and the last embers of dusk. The magistrate steps forward one last time, voice warm and resonant. May the mercy you have known guide your days, and the bonds you've reforged bear you safely through all seasons. With that benediction, the three honorees each step across the threshold. The tinker lays his floral garland on a stone bench. The laundress ties her bridal banner to the gate's latch. The shepherd rests his staff against the ironwork. As they turn to face their neighbours, a hush falls, broken only by the soft toll of the church bell. Children hold lit lanterns aloft, their flames flickering like tiny stars, while elders offer quiet nods and blessings. In a gesture of communal solidarity, the congregation slowly raises their lanterns skyward, forming a canopy of light that frames the gate. The three quietly take each other's hands, forming a gentle link of fellowship, before stepping back into the village they now rejoin as equals. The narrator's voice drifts over the tableau, noting that true justice journeys from penance to promise and ends in a shared light that kindles hope in every heart. As the last bell fades and lanterns glow into the night, the scene closes on the churchyard gate, now adorned with ribbon, garland, and staff, silent testament to a community's enduring grace. Long before sunrise, a pale light glimmers on the slow-moving brook that winds through the meadow's edge. Here begins Chapter 11's opening rite, the waters of remorse. Today's participant is a humble miller, accused of careless chatter that unsettled the local magistrate's household. Rather than stocks or pillory, his penance is to stand knee-deep in the cool stream at dawn and offer silent reflection as water laps around him. The brook's gentle murmur replaces public spectacle with private contemplation. As mist swirls around his woolen hose, the miller kneels, cupping his hands to lift a handful of the flowing water to his lips, symbolic of cleansing both tongue and mind. Across the bank, the bailiff stands respectfully with a lantern, its glow softened by swirling vapor, while the herbalist elder places sprigs of mint and chamomile on a nearby stone as aromatic reminders of calm speech. Dawn birdsong fills the air, guiding the miller's heartbeat into steady rhythm. The narrator's voice notes that water, ever honest and flowing, mirrors truth, urging the penitent to temper words as gently as ripples. After a moment of silent prayer, the miller releases the water, watching it slip through his fingers and continue downstream. In this quiet valley scene, the waters of remorse ritual elevates personal accountability into a serene communion with nature, setting the tone for the chapter's deeper exploration of healing through humility. With the dawn mist lifting, the miller leaves the brook's edge to join the meadow council, a circle of neighbours assembled in the wildflower meadow, where grievances are aired and absolution granted. Today's miller, still damp from his waters of remorse, steps into a ring of woven grasses and petals laid by the herbalist elder. Surrounding him are the bailiff, the herbalist, and 6 villagers, farmers, weavers, and a shepherd, each bearing a small token of peace, a ribbon of blue flax, a woven daisy chain, a sprig of honeysuckle. In early modern custom, this council fosters communal dialogue. The penitent speaks first, voice steady, expressing contrition for his careless gossip that harmed the magistrate's household. Each neighbour then steps forward in turn, placing their token at the miller's feet and offering a brief blessing or word of support. May your words flow as kindly as these petals. Softly, trust rebuilt brings peace to all. The bailiff nods solemnly, and the herbalist sprinkles a few handfuls of chamomile blossoms across the circle, invoking calm. As the final blessing is given, the miller gathers the tokens into his arms and offers a heartfelt thanks. Relieved, his eyes reflecting both humility and relief. A light breeze rustles the grasses, carrying the scent of wildflowers and sealing the council's harmony. In this ritual exchange, the community transforms penance into partnership, each token a living pledge that forgiveness, like a meadow in bloom, flourishes only when tended by many hands. Following the meadow council's blessings, the miller embarks on the silent walk, a quiet procession through the village's lane of ancient elms. In early modern penance, this ritual invited the offender to carry the weight of reflection into the heart of daily life. Footsteps echo softly on packed earth as the miller, head bowed and hands clasped, moves without speech. On either side, neighbours line the path at respectful intervals. Bakers, wiping hands on aprons, weavers, leaning on shuttles, children standing motionless, each bearing a single lit lantern to illuminate his way. The herbalist elder scatters rose petals at the miller's feet, symbolizing the fragrance of gentle words replacing sharp gossip. A gentle breeze stirs the elm leaves overhead, creating a whispering canopy that seems to echo the walk's intent: humility and attentiveness. Midway, the bailiff steps forward to place a hand briefly on the miller's shoulder, a silent gesture of support rather than sanction. As the procession approaches the village green, the miller pauses at a low stone wall, kneels, and bows for a moment of private prayer. In this hush of collective patience, the silent walk transforms the village artery into a living corridor of reconciliation, reminding all that true change walks hand in hand with the rhythms of shared community. When the miller rises, the neighbours lower their lanterns in unison, signalling the end of the vigil. The scene closes as the final lantern's glow fades into dawn's full light, and the miller steps forward alone, renewed in purpose and carried by the village's silent embrace. By late morning, the miller is guided to the communal weaving hall, a spacious timber-framed barn where villagers gather to turn soft wool into cloth. Here unfolds the ritual of the communal loom, in which the penitent's words are woven into fabric as living reminders of measured speech. A long warp of undyed wool stretches between two sturdy beams. Beside it, dyed threads of lavender, rosemary green, and flax blue await. The herbalist elder begins by dipping each coloured thread into herbal infusions: lavender for calm, rosemary for remembrance, flax for honesty, while explaining their symbolism. The miller, still bearing tokens from the meadow council, sits at the loom's bench and threads the shuttle for the first pass. Surrounding him are 6 weavers, grandmothers and apprentices alike, who hum a gentle refrain of a proverb. Soft words bind, stronger than chords. With each shuttle throw, the miller is prompted to speak a brief statement of intent. I will temper gossip with truth. I will listen before I speak. And then weave, knotting threads in patterns that echo those vows. As the cloth grows, neighbours step forward to pinch in flower petals and small ribbons between the weft. Embedding their own blessings, the barn fills with the soft rhythm of shuttle and finger, and the scent of herbal washed wool. The narrator's calm voice reminds viewers that here, speech and craft unite. Each woven strand carries an oath, each pattern a promise. When the final row is set, the herbalist cuts the cloth from the loom and drapes it over a wooden rack, its gentle hues glimmering in the sunlit barn. In this woven tapestry, the community's collective journey from remorse to renewal is etched into every fibre, an enduring fabric of fellowship and mindful words. As midday sun filters through the latticed windows of the village hall, Chapter 11's final rite unfolds around the hearthstone's embrace. The miller, now adorned with tokens from the silent walk and communal loom, stands before the ancient flagstone hearth, its smooth surface worn by generations of gatherings. Villagers encircle the hearth, each holding a small wooden token carved with a single word: listen, speak, kindness, patience, thankful, and respect. In early modern penance traditions, placing these tokens on the hearth symbolized offering one's best intentions back to the heart of the home and community. The bailiff acts as steward, inviting each neighbor to step forward, speak their word aloud, and lay their token on the stone. The herbalist elder follows, sprinkling a pinch of dried lavender and rosemary across the hearth, invoking calm and memory. Finally, the miller approaches alone, voice clear as he places his own token, mindful, at the center of the hearthstone. He turns to the crowd and speaks. May our words warm like this hearth, and may we tend them as faithfully. At his cue, the magistrate strikes a small iron poker to stir the embers beneath, sending a soft glow rippling across the tokens. A hush gives way to gentle applause as neighbors step back, the circle unbroken. The narrator's calm voice reflects that this hearthstone's embrace weaves the day's rituals into the fabric of daily life, reminding all that measured speech, like a tended fire, must be kindled and cared for each day. As the villagers depart to their homes, the hearth's embers glow steadily, a living emblem of the community's shared vow of mindful words and gentle hearts. As moonlight filters through swaying elms, villagers gather at the crossroads for the midnight candle vigil, a ceremony of silent illumination for those who've spoken ill in haste. Tonight's participant is the town herald, recently reprimanded for spreading unverified news that stirred unrest. At the center of the crossroad stands a simple wooden stand draped in white cloth. Upon it rests a single unlit beeswax candle. The herald, cloaked in muted grey, steps forward with measured breath and retrieves a taper from a lantern-lit brazier. Neighbours flank the stand in 2 lines, each holding a small clay lamp. The herbalist elder moves among them, touching wicks with rosemary oil for clarity. The bailiff stands just behind the herald, hands folded in respectful support. The miller's daughter, shepherd's apprentice, and baker's son form part of the silent guard, their faces solemn in the pale light. The herald raises the taper to the lone candle's wick, speaks no word. But in that pause, the vigil's purpose is clear: to replace careless shadows with steady illumination. He ignites the candle. Its flame flickers to life, casting warm circles across the crossroads. Instantly, each neighbour lifts their lamp to a light from its glow, passing the light down the line until every hand holds a gentle flame. In the hush, the only sound is the soft shush of oil and the distant call of an owl. The narrator's calm voice reflects, in darkness or light, words guided by careful thought can warm the heart rather than sow doubt. With lamps now lit, the vigil stands as a living lantern train, each flame an oath to speak with truth and kindness, guiding the herald and all who witness back toward communal trust. With the single beeswax beacon now burning, the circle of candles ritual begins. Villagers arrange themselves in a wide ring around the crossroads stand, each bearing their own taper: bakers' apprentices with short beeswax sticks, shepherds' children with dipped rushlights, and weavers with slender dipped candles. The herbalist elder moves among them, anointing each wick with lavender oil for calm focus. The herald, cloak still bearing dew, stands at the center and ushers neighbors to light their flames in silence, passing fire from lamp to lamp until the circle glows with dozens of points of light. As each candle ignites, the bailiff softly tolls a small handbell, marking each neighbor's pledge of mindful speech. The narrator's voice observes that these flickering lights mirror the collective commitment to speak with care, each flame a guardian against careless shadows. When the circle burns fully bright, the herald steps forward to address the group, his voice unmasked and measured, sharing his vow to verify every word he shares. In turn, each neighbor offers a whisper promise. Bakers vow honest waits, shepherds vow gentle counsel, weavers vow patient listening. The hush deepens, the only sound the soft drip of oil from candles and the distant nightingale's song. As the vigil draws to a close, the herald leads a moment of silent gratitude, hands folded before the glowing ring. Then, with a simple nod, he lifts his candle high, the circle responding in unison. In this luminous assembly, the community transforms private remorse into collective resolve, each flame testifying that words, once kindled thoughtfully, can guide and comfort like gentle light through darkness. After extinguishing their flames, the community gathers at the chapel door for the written pledge ceremony. A long oak table is set with sheets of fine parchment, nibbed quills, and inkwells infused with rosemary for clarity. The herald sits first, dipping his quill and inscribing a formal apology and commitment to verify facts before speaking. He signs with a deliberate flourish and passes the parchment down the line. Each neighbour steps forward in turn. Bakers commit to honest measure, shepherds to gentle instruction, weavers to thoughtful conversation. Adding their own handwritten vow, the bailiff oversaw the document's assembly, now collects each signed sheet and binds them together with a leather thong. As the last neighbour signs, the herbalist elder dips the bundle in a bowl of chamomile-infused water, anointing the collective promise with soothing intent. The narrator's voice reflects on how ink transforms personal pledge into tangible covenant, a record both solemn and sacred. When complete, the bailiff lifts the bound scroll and holds it aloft, its weight symbolizing shared responsibility. The herald then leads a, softly, Soft refrain, urging all to memorize the opening line. In truth and kindness, we bind our tongues. Together, they step into the chapel's threshold, placing the scroll upon the altar under the watchful eyes of painted saints. In this melding of word and ritual, the written pledge ceremony cements the night's lessons into enduring practice, each signature a beacon guiding future speech toward honesty and care. With the written pledge solemnly placed on the altar, the benediction of quills ceremony begins. The priest, robed in soft grey, takes a simple quill from the herald's hand and anoints its tip with holy water. He chants a short blessing. By this ink may truth flow, by these words may kindness grow, and passes the quill to the herald, who in turn offers it to the bailiff. Each honoured participant, herald, bailiff, herbalist, and 6 neighbours, receives the quill in sequence, holding it for a silent moment before a brief benediction for mindful speech. Their soft invocations mingle in the hush, thoughtful. Grant me patience in my tongue, solemn, let every tale be tempered with truth. Gentle, may my words heal, not harm. As each voice fades, the next lifts the quill, tracing a small cross in the air before returning it to the table. The narrator's voice notes that this passing of the blessed quill transforms an ordinary tool into a sacrament of speech, a reminder that every written or spoken word bears the weight of intention. When all have blessed the quill, the priest places it back beside the scroll and sprinkles final droplets of holy water over both. A gentle chorus of Amen rises from the congregation. In this consecration of the very instrument of writing, the community consecrates every future word as an act of care, ensuring that the herald's journey from careless rumour to mindful messenger becomes a shared covenant, carried forward in quill and voice alike. As the first light of dawn breaks through the chapel's stained glass windows, the final ritual of chapter 12 unfolds, the dawn chorus. In the nave, the congregation gathers, herald, bailiff, herbalist, neighbours, and the priest, each holding a small hymn book newly inscribed with verses celebrating truth and kindness. The priest raises his hand, and the group begins a gentle chant. Let our words be birds of morning, singing grace on wings of light. Their voices rise in harmonious refrain, echoing through carved stone aisles. The narrator's voice reflects that song, like spoken promise, cements communal resolve. Each sung line a petal of vow carried on the wind. Outside, villagers pause in doorways at their hearths to listen, feeling the melody drift through open windows. At the final verse, the herald steps forward to sing a solo line, and may my tale bring hope anew, his voice steady and clear. As the chorus concludes, the bailiff extinguishes the candles along the aisle, and the priest opens the chapel doors to reveal a bright morning sky. Together, they step into the sunrise, hymn books in hand, voices still softly singing the closing refrain. In this final tableau, the dawn chorus transforms penitent ritual into communal celebration, ensuring that every word spoken and sung henceforth carries the warmth and wisdom kindled through these gentle rites. For first light warms the rooftops, the village scribe makes her way to the old stone archive at the square's edge for the dawn embers of apology ritual. Accused of misfiling town records, resulting in confusion over harvest levies, she seeks to restore trust through deliberate reflection. On a low iron stand rests an unlit brazier filled with smouldering embers from last night's hearth, its coals faintly glowing. The scribe kneels, heart steadying as she lifts a sheaf of blank vellum and her quill. Neighbours gather silently. The herbalist elder holds a bowl of lavender petals for calm. The bailiff stands with folded hands. A baker's apprentice brings a small lantern. The scribe dips her quill in a bowl of honey-infused ink, sweetness symbolizing goodwill, and writes a heartfelt apology, acknowledging her error and pledging meticulous care. When her words are complete, she tears the vellum into strips and one by one lays them atop the glowing embers. Each strip curls and smoulders, releasing soft tendrils of smoke that mingle with dawn's mist, carrying her apology skyward. The bailiff tolls a small bronze bell with each vellum placed, its tone gentle and measured. As the last strip vanishes in the embers, the herbalist scatters lavender petals over the brazier's edge, invoking serenity. The narrator's calm voice reflects that in this intimate rite, written regret transforms into rising smoke, an offering of humility carried on the morning air. The scene closes on the brazier's faint glow, fading beneath a pastel sky, leaving the scribe's heart lightened and her commitment reborn in the soft embers of dawn. As morning light warms the market square, the scribe takes her place on a low wooden platform before the town crier's bell. Today's ritual transforms her private apology into communal accountability. She will read aloud corrected entries from the town ledger. Neighbours gather in attentive semicircle, farmers with baskets, weavers leaning on shuttle poles, children perched on barrel rims, each bearing a small wooden tally stick as witness. The bailiff stands to one side, staff in hand, while the herbalist elder holds a sprig of lavender at her belt. The scribe unfolds a fresh vellum sheet and, in clear, measured tones, recites each amended line. Re-recorded harvest dues, precise names, and restored sums. At each correction, the town crier strikes his bell once. The crowd murmurs approval. When errors are enumerated, the scribe pauses to acknowledge their impact. Unpaid levies that left families fearing food shortages, and pledges vigilance in future entries. A mother steps forward, lays her tally stick on the platform and nods. We trust your hand, now guided by truth. The bailiff offers a curt nod of affirmation. The narrator's voice observes that by speaking corrections aloud, the scribe's pen becomes a tool of restoration, public voice reinforcing the written word. When the final entry is read, neighbours place their tally sticks beside the brazier of embers from scene 1, symbols of both record and resolution. The scribe closes her ledger with a soft thud, head bowed in gratitude. In this open-air ceremony, transparency and trust intertwine. Every spoken correction kindles confidence throughout the community. Before first light softens the rooftops, the village gathers by the stone bridge for the alms bowl ritual, an act of giving to temper careless tongue. Tonight's participant is the charcoal burner, rebuked for harsh jests that wounded neighbours' pride. A low wooden stand holds a carved wooden bowl etched with the words, "Feed words with kindness." The charcoal burner, soot still on his tunic, approaches with a sack of barley and pulses. Neighbours, bakers, gardeners and children stand in 2 lines, each holding a small basket of grain or legumes. The herbalist elder sprinkles lavender and oats around the bowl's rim for calm intentions. One by one, each neighbour steps forward to pour a handful of their offering into the bowl, a pledge. May our words nourish, not deplete. The bailiff rings a small bronze bell at each pour, its clear tone marking each promise. When all have contributed, the charcoal burner kneels and lifts the bowl, inspecting its contents with quiet humility. He then dips his hand into the mixture, scoops a portion into a cloth and distributes it to the herbalist's apprentice, who will bake it into simple cakes for the poor at sunrise. The narrator's voice observes that, by feeding the needy, the community channels speech's energy into care, transforming empty words into genuine sustenance. As the first cockerel crow echoes through misty lanes, the charcoal burner offers his own grain, his vow to temper humour with compassion. The scene closes on the alabaster bowl, now full, its contents destined to become bread that binds both hunger and speech in gentle fellowship. As the sun reaches mid-morning, the Mirror of Council ritual convenes in the town hall's council chamber. The charcoal burner stands before a polished bronze mirror set in a carved oak frame, Traditionally, this mirror reveals the weight of one's intentions before speaking. The bailiff leads the ceremony, inviting each honoured neighbour, bakers, weavers, the shepherd and miller, to offer counsel. The charcoal burner, cloak draped modestly, peers into the mirror's gleaming surface and is prompted by the bailiff calmly. Speak the kindness you wish reflected. In turn, each neighbour speaks a guiding phrase. Let gentle truth be your flame. Speak light to lighten hearts. Measure words as one measures coal. As each counsel is voiced, the mirror's surface seems to shimmer, and the charcoal burner's reflection brightens in tone. The herbalist elder anoints the mirror's edge with a sprig of rosemary, invoking clarity. The narrator's voice notes that by hearing wisdom echoed back, the penitent aligns his heart before uttering words. When the final counsel is given, the bailiff gently places a wreath of woven lavender around the mirror's frame, sealing the guidance within its reflective surface. The charcoal burner bows deeply, then steps back, his reflection now a fusion of others' wisdom and his own renewed intent. The scene closes as the mirror glows softly in chamber light, a silent testament to the power of collective counsel, guiding one's speech like a steady flame. At midday in the shaded courtyard of the bakehouse, the bread of quiet words ceremony transforms silence into mindful exchange. The charcoal burner, recently guided by alms and counsel, joins the village baker at her hearth. A large round loaf, its crust scored with concentric rings, rests on a wooden board. According to tradition, each person invited to break the bread must do so in silence, reflecting on gentle speech before partaking. The bailiff stands at the entrance, nodding to each guest, a weaver, miller's apprentice, herbalist elder and 2 children. As the charcoal burner lifts the loaf and breaks off a piece, the narrator's voice observes that deliberate silence honors the weight of words unsaid and those soon to be shared. Each guest takes a portion in turn, holding it before their heart before eating. The baker offers honey-sweetened butter to the charcoal burner, whose eyes reflect gratitude rather than jest. After the last crumb is shared, the herbalist sprinkles lavender salt atop the remaining crust, symbolizing calm flavor in speech. The bailiff then strikes the hearth's iron poker 3 times, signaling the return to gentle dialogue. The courtyard fills with hushed smiles as neighbors resume quiet conversation, their words now seasoned by the shared ritual. The scene closes on the emptied board, the loaf's concentric scars glowing in the afternoon sun, a testament that breaking silence can nourish both body and community trust when done with care. As dusk approaches, the whispering scroll ritual convenes in the quiet of the chapel's side alcove. The charcoal burner enters with a sealed parchment scroll, his own reflections penned in soft ink, and a small hand-carved wooden box of waxed ribbons. Neighbors gather in low wooden pews, each clutching an unwaxed ribbon. The bailiff lights a single candle on a small stand, its glow flickering on the charcoal burner's furrowed brow. The burner breaks the seal, unfolds the scroll, and reads a passage confessing rash humor and pledging measured wit. At the end of each heartfelt line, he ties a ribbon around the scroll, blue for humility, green for patience, gold for generosity. The narrator's voice notes that each knot binds his words, ensuring they carry weight and intention. After the final line, the herbalist elder places a sprig of rosemary atop the scroll, its fragrance sealing the vow. The bailiff then lifts the scroll and pauses before pronouncing, "Let these whispers guide us when silence falters." Guests are invited to lean forward, touch the scroll's ribbons, and whisper their own brief vows. "I will hear before I jest. I will temper laughter with grace." Each whisper echoes softly in the alcove's hush. When complete, the scroll is rolled, secured with its waxed ribbons, and returned to its wooden box. The charcoal burner closes the box with a sealing both secret vows and shared intention within its carved walls. The scene fades as the candle gutters last ember, leaving the alcove steeped in reverent stillness. At the first crack of dawn, villagers gather in the orchard for the dawn release, freeing words once bound by penance into the world as gentle breezes. The charcoal burner carries the sealed wooden box of ribbons and scroll to a low stone wall. Neighbors stand beneath blossoming branches, each clutching a folded ribbon tied from the scroll. The herbalist elder chants a brief invocation. May these words carry kindness. And the bailiff unties the box's latch. One by one, the charcoal burner lifts the box's lid, and neighbors step forward to release their ribbon into the air. As each ribbon drifts upward, the narrator's voice reflects that letting go symbolizes the trust placed in each vow's power to shape speech. The baker's daughter lets her blue humility ribbon flutter. The weaver's child releases her green patience band. The shepherd's son casts his gold generosity cord high. A gentle breeze catches the ribbons, carrying them among apple blossoms. With the final ribbon loosed, a violet strand representing the charcoal burner's own pledge, the bailiff closes the box and sets it upon the wall, its carvings glowing in morning light. A chorus of birdsong greets the release, the neighbors turning to one another with soft smiles. The charcoal burner steps back, his heart unbound, as the orchard hums with new beginnings. In this final act of chapter 14, words once tethered in rituals now take flight, weaving through branches and hearts alike, a living testament that spoken intentions, when freed with care, can flutter gently across every dawn. At first blush of dawn, villagers gather around the communal fountain in the garden square, for the rosewater lustral, a ceremony cleansing speech as much as spirit. The town rhetorician, once reproached for barbed commentary in the council, stands before the fountain's carved basin. Neighbors form a circle, each holding a small spray bottle of rose-infused water. The bailiff places a silver chalice of clear spring water at the fountain's lip, while the herbalist elder strews rose petals across its surface. The rhetorician dips a hand into the basin, draws up a handful of lustral water, and sprinkles it gently over his own mouth, a gesture washing away sharp words. Then, guided by the bailiff's soft toll of a handbell, each neighbor in turn approaches to anoint the rhetorician's cheeks with a light mist of rosewater, whispering blessings of gentle speech or kind counsel. The herbalist elder leads a brief chant. Let petals of peace fall where words once pricked. As the final droplets gather on the fountain's edge, the rhetorician bows deeply, his face alight with renewed humility. The narrator's calm voice observes that, in this delicate ritual, speech is reborn through the simple grace of rosewater. Each spray a promise to speak with sweetness rather than sting. The scene closes on the fountain's rim, now studded with pink petals and shimmering droplets in the morning light, a testament that even the sharpest tongue can be soothed by acts of collective care. Mid-morning sun filters through the arches of the market colonnade as the rhetorician stands before the echoing ledger, an open book mounted on a bronze stand that amplifies spoken words. To atone for careless exaggerations, he must read aloud passages of measured truth. The bailiff stands behind, ready with a brass gong to gently chime at each honest line. Neighbors circle, each clutching a small polished pebble as witness. The rhetorician unfurls a fresh vellum scroll and, in calm cadence, reads statements of fact, precise weights of grain, accurate times of council meetings, and correct names of benefactors. With every line, the neighboring listeners drop a pebble into a brass bowl at the stand's base, affirming the veracity. The bailiff's gong responds with a soft echo, reinforcing each truth. The herbalist elder sprinkles sage smoke around the stand for clarity, while a child rings a tiny bell in support. When the final lined vow is uttered, I pledge to weigh words with the same care as these stones. The bowl is heavy with pebbles, and the ledger's embossed pages seem to glow. The narrator reflects that here, truth resonates like a bell, each pebble marking the communal commitment to precise speech. The scene closes on the bowl of pebbles and the ledger's final entry, the colonnade bathed in warm light and the gentle resonance of restored trust. As noon bells toll, the community moves to the Cup of Concord ritual in the vine-clad arbor beside the tavern. The rhetorician approaches a table holding a single silver goblet filled with rose and honey mead, symbol of sweet, unified speech. Neighbors surround the arbor, each bearing a small glass of plain water. The bailiff pours drops from the mead goblet into every water glass, blending sweetness with simplicity. The herbalist elder inscribes each glass's rim with a tiny sprig of mint for freshness. In turn, each neighbour raises their glass and toasts the rhetorician's pledge to words that bind, not divide. The rhetorician swirls the remaining mead, inhales its scent, then raises the goblet. With clear, heartfelt voice, he toasts, "May every speech we share be spiced with kindness," and everyone sips in unison. The clink of glasses sounds like harmonious chimes, and laughter, light and genuine, ripples through the arbor's shade. The narrator notes that by mixing mead and water, the ritual tempers lofty rhetoric with humble clarity. The scene closes on empty glasses and a single lingering drop in the goblet, glinting like a promise amid trailing vines, a living emblem of unity through balanced speech. As afternoon wanes, the mute liaison convenes in the silent gallery of the town hall, a corridor lined with portraits of past magistrates. The rhetorician, stripped of his speaking role for this rite, stands before a low bench opposite a trusted neighbour. Each pair shares a bench, a baker and miller, weaver and dyer, child and elder. No speech is allowed. Instead, they exchange whispered gestures and written notes on small slates. The rhetorician writes an apology note, "Forgive my fiery tongue," and slides it across to his partner, who nods and returns a brief gesture of acceptance, a hand over heart. The neighbour writes, "We walk in kindness," and the rhetorician bows in silent gratitude. Along the gallery, the bailiff and herbalist elder move quietly, ensuring the ritual's hushed tone. The herbalist passing bowls of lavender-scented water for hand-washing, symbolizing purity of intent. The narrator observes that by removing speech, the community deepens its listening. Every nod, every gesture speaks volumes. After each exchange, pairs stand and place their slates into a woven basket adorned with rosemary, collecting these silent affirmations. When the rhetorician's turn ends, he lifts his basket of slates and places it before the hall's exit, signifying that actions can carry as much weight as words. The scene closes on the silent gallery, echoing with the rustle of footsteps and the soft clink of slates, an emblem of communion beyond speech that binds hearts more tightly than any spoken word. As dusk melds into evening, the community assembles in the chapel courtyard for the final affirmation, a sung benediction that crowns chapter 15. The rhetorician stands before a small choir of neighbours, the herbalist elder, bailiff, baker's daughter, weaver's apprentice, and 2 children. Each holds a simple set of chimes, tuned to a single note. The bailiff opens with a handbell toll, and the choir begins a gentle round. Words as soft as evening breeze bind us close in trust's embrace. With each line, choir members lightly chime in sequence, weaving melody and message. The rhetorician joins on the final refrain, his voice clear and warm. Let every speech now seek to heal. The narrator's voice observes that, in combining word and music, the community affirms speech's harmonious power. As the hymn concludes, the bailiff steps forward with a small ivory whistle and passes it to the rhetorician, symbol of cautious return to vocal leadership. The rhetorician blows a soft note, listening as its echo fades into the chapel walls. Neighbours respond with a gentle nod, touching their hearts in silent blessing. The scene closes on the choir ringing their chimes together under the night sky, petals of lavender drifting in the warm breeze. A final testament that speech, when guided by song and solidarity, can resonate with enduring harmony. As our chapter draws to a close, allow your body to surrender fully to this moment of calm. Feel the gentle rise and fall of your chest as each breath carries you farther from today's concerns. Imagine the soft glow of candlelight flickering just beyond your vision, the quiet crackle of embers in a distant hearth, and the faint rustle of leaves outside your window. Let these images guide you deeper into repose. Reflect now on the story you've just heard, its characters, its rhythms, and the delicate lessons woven between each scene. As those echoes fade, notice how your mind grows still, each thought like a leaf drifting lazily on a pond. Without judgment, let go of any remaining tension. Unclench your jaw, soften your forehead, and allow your shoulders to drop. If your thoughts wander to tomorrow's tasks, simply acknowledge them as passing clouds, and return your focus to the softness you've cultivated here. Your heart beats in steady assurance that rest is both earned and essential. In these final moments, give yourself permission to drift. You are held by the gentle cadence of the narrative and the caring intention behind every word. Soon sleep will come as naturally as dawn follows night. And if you wake before morning, carry with you the warmth of this calm, knowing you can return to it at any time. Good night, and may your dreams be as soothing as the stories that guide you there.